Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and do you know that feeling you get when you hear something so hilariously ironic about Brexit and collapse into a fit of giggles, and then you realise you're actually stuck on this island with these lunatics? Just had it again when hearing that the US has told the UK to get in line when it comes to a trade deal. But first, if you'd like to stay notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So it was all supposed to be so easy, wasn't it? We're going to leave the EU. The world would be tripping over itself to do deals with the UK. We'd be getting better deals than we could with the EU. And when you tried to ask the Brexiteers, how are we going to get better deal than with the EU when the EU represents a much larger market and has more money to spend than the UK on its own? You know, we represent a much smaller customer base. They just referred you to the fact that, look, the United States, the largest economy in the world, wants to deal with us. They say we're at the front of the queue. They know that we're going to do better outside of the EU. So much so that, you know, as they note, President Trump said, come over here, UK, just leave the EU, leave them behind, come over here, we'll give you a brilliant trade deal. Well, we're no longer members of the EU. Countries around the world have been telling us to piss off. They've said, look, we'll talk to you, but get a deal with the EU first, then we'll sort something out better. We need to know what your relationship's going to be with the EU. So, you know, the United States, well, we're just going to have to get a deal with them first, aren't we? Just to show that it's all possible. We're now free to negotiate and agree trade deals on any terms with any country that we deem fit. So we're now starting formal talks with the EU. They're going to begin proper in March, next month. Boris Johnson said that he's going to run talks with the EU and the US in tandem at the same time. So presumably that means we're going to be starting the US trade talks next month as well, right? No, not so much. So it's sort of gone like this. So the US has gone to the UK, look, you know, of course we want a trade deal with you, but we really need to sort out a trade deal with the EU first. You know, we were spending a few years working on one. We didn't quite get there. We want to restart those. There's a structure there. You know, we've already agreed to certain things. You know, they know what we want. We know what they want. You know, there's something there to work with. We don't really know what you want. We know what we want. We know that you'll sign anything we put in front of you. But, you know, we need the trade deal with the EU more than we do with you guys. So remember when Obama, who of course was president when the Brexit referendum results came out, Donald Trump was elected later that year but didn't become president until the following year, and he said that Britain would be at the back of the queue for trade deals. And well, that's where we are right now. That is actually where we are right now. America are much more keen on a trade deal with the EU than arranging one with the UK. And they're not at all interested in running two in tandem. They want to focus on a trade deal with the EU. You know, the largest trading bloc in the world. And it's not just about the fact that there's an established structure there. Trump's economic advisor also cited the lack of appetite for a trade war with the EU. And this sort of makes sense as well. You know, you think about, obviously this will have come ultimately from President Trump. He's dipped his toes in the water of a little bit of a trade skirmish, at least with the EU. A couple of years ago, he did not like it one little bit. He'll have also, no doubt, been put off his experience with China, a position he has hastily backed away from recently, and is back onto more constructive terms in terms of organising some agreements with China as well. So that trade war's over too. Trump really doesn't have stomach for a trade war with the EU again. Also, has to be said, Boris Johnson's decision to award a 5G contract to Huawei didn't help either, with Trump said to be absolutely furious with Boris Johnson. Might not be any more pictures of handshakes between the two now. But as hilarious as it is, when you consider, you just think, how must Brexit supporters be taking this? I'm personally very genuinely pleased. And I don't mean because it's all going to pieces. You know, it's a bit of a weird situation for me at the moment. Britain is going to do very badly as a result of Brexit. I know this. This is why I was against it. And that's not to say that I'm wishing it. I don't want Britain to fail just so that I can say, I told you so. If I need to get my I told you so banner out, I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to do it. I don't need to invite them, but I am personally pleased about this. And it's not because the only country in the world that wanted us to leave the EU has slapped us across the face with a wet kipper. The national humiliation is not great for even those of us who are opposed to what our government has done. It looks very badly. I don't want our country to be weaker. It just is. But the US trade deal, which I'd only just been talking about recently, represented a very, very bad deal for the UK, which I talked about in the video. And we are in no position to move the terms in our favour. When I tried to explain to the Brexit supporters, going, oh, but that's just their position. We'll negotiate and we'll move. We'll get the terms more in our favour. Against America? Really? Is that what we're going to do? No, it's not. No, it's not. And frankly, what I would like to do, I'd like to echo a Brexiteer's own statement that no deal is better than a bad deal. And if the US trade deal isn't on the table, then the real silver lining to this is that perhaps Boris Johnson will change his policy and seek to get one in earnest with the EU. It's been quite clear, and it is still quite clear, that his policy is no deal with the EU, largely because to get the deal with the US, we have to get no deal with the EU. They're mutually exclusive. If he cannot get a deal with the US, and then, that remains to be seen because there's several things that could affect that. First of all, at the moment, he's out of favour with Donald Trump. The EU are back, not in favour with Donald Trump, but his new positions. The people he was negotiating with before are no longer there. They've been replaced by others. And, he's very much into personalities. So the people that annoyed him have gone. He's willing to re-engage. In a year's time, it may all collapse again. But then in a year's time, he may no longer be President of the United States. We'll just have to see. And if he is, and they piss him off, then maybe Boris Johnson thinks if he keeps ingratiating himself with him, then he'll turn back to the UK. And maybe Donald Trump will negotiate with us just to get back at the EU, a spiteful little gobble in the ears. But if it's not Donald Trump in charge, then, and we've got a more sensible, America has a more sensible president, then of course they're still going to favour the EU because it represents a larger market. And like Trump's own economic advisor said, no one wants a trade deal. It's not in anyone's interest for there to be a trade war, rather, between the EU and the US. No one's interested. And this is true. It is in no one's interest. So, yeah, I'm hoping that Boris Johnson's going to have to rethink. And he's going to have to think, right, at the moment, he's not just in serious danger, but almost certain to end up with no deals at all by the end of this year. He is trying to say that Brexit's been done. Where's our trade deals then? At the end of this year, that's when he's at, if we leave the transition period, that's when Brexit actually is done. We're leaving the customs union, the single market. If we still have no deals at that point, how's he going to explain that? His US trade deal was his ace in the hole. It's not there anymore. Not there. So I'm personally quite pleased, not because it means I get to say I told you so, but because it may move Boris Johnson towards the EU and properly, not just to do pretend talks this year, but for genuine talks. So that's my take on it anyway. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details. I'll put my teeth back in, and until next time, I'll see you later.